Welcome back to episode 58 of the Grappling Growth podcast with me, Joe's Story. On today's episode, we have launched a brand new series which puts a spotlight on artificial intelligence called The Intelligent Edge. It's a way of speaking with business owners, seeing how they're using artificial intelligence in helping their business grow and flourish over the next 6 to 12 months and beyond. Look, it's no secret that AI is the number one hot topic in business right now. Today, I was fortunately joined by Benjamin Serven, the founder and managing director of Black Sheep Global, a business that helps property management companies with their streamlining of processes and operations. Benjamin and his business are frontrunners in their industry, so it's a pleasure to sit down with him, understand how they're using AI and how they're making sure that they're the best in class within their market. If you're someone who is fascinated by AI, this is going to be the opening of the series. So enjoy. Please leave your feedback because it's so useful to evolve and make these podcasts as valuable as possible.
As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Joe's Story, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy.
Benjamin, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great, Joe. Glad to be here.
So, Benjamin, my first question is, what does growth look like to you?
Well, it's an excellent question. Growth is a many-faceted beast. It can mean many things, lots of positive things, lots of very challenging things. Within the business that I run, growth has always been limited by capacity. One of the things that I believe, with a background in sales and customer service and having been a part of many businesses that operated over capacity, is that doing so is really detrimental to both your team and your client experience. So growth for me is exciting, but it's also something that constantly feels handcuffed. And I'm always looking for ways to hack growth in some way. As a service-based business, growth is incredibly important to continue to help my team level up. But it's also, as I mentioned, limited since our talent pool and the service that we sell is very limited by the individuals who can grasp the context of the technology that we work in and the services that we provide. So yeah, growth is a double-edged sword.
I've never heard it be described as handcuffed before. And remember from our previous conversation, you mentioned that the market in the States it's not very competitive because of what you mentioned. The biggest challenge there being, do people know how to do what we do? And simply the answer to it is no. So talking about that, if we're talking about the number one goal for the business with regards to growth this year, what does that look like?
Yeah, so big growth goals for us have been in team expansion. And I've made some, we're a relatively young company still, and I'm young in business ownership. So much of this is fly by the seat of your pants, figure it out as you go along. And the reality of our growth experience thus far is that it's been bumpy. For any business owner, I think it's true that we go through ups and downs on a very regular basis. In terms of the actual growth trajectory, it's a very bumpy ride. And for us, I went from a solo provider where it was just me providing services to my client. Let's see, I think we just hired teammate number 7, and that's in a year and a half. And so we've gone through a very rapid growth trajectory, which is excellent. And I'm thankful to be, in the leadership seat where I'm being able to be less involved in the day-to-day, but that doesn't necessarily make it easier. And so to answer your question about what does growth look like for us this year, growth for us right now is hitting our growth goals, our financial goals, and also our team goals. Tagging back to that idea of capacity, one of the things that's really important to me as we grow the business is to keep it at capacity or under capacity. So we have planned to choke the business and to only get to a certain level. And that level is 5 teams of 2 in our operations seats. And after that, we don't plan to expand our operations seats any further. We'll certainly need to provide, accessory relationships like HR and accounting and things like that. But what I've observed in various organizations that I've been a part of is that as organizations grow, there's lots of benefit, but with that benefit, there's a lot of cost. And I'm not willing to sacrifice the cost of relational closeness and trust on the altar of profit, which is certainly accessible. But for me, I'd rather take care of the people who are in the business and ensure that this particular business is well set up to succeed in the long term. And that's why we plan to choke growth.
It's a very pragmatic approach, and I think a lot of people, myself included, a couple of years ago, I was fixated on hyperbolic growth. I had pretty absurd growth goals based on where I was at the time, and I think that I didn't really look at the clear pathway that I had to take to get there. It was just a case of these are the numbers we want to hit. Let's reverse engineer how we hit these numbers, and it doesn't matter if the infrastructure breaks down in order to get there. So I think it's a very pragmatic approach. Where do you think that the pragmatic viewpoint came from within you?
Years and years in customer service. um, I spent probably the better part of a decade working in client-facing business-to-consumer services, particularly in internet retail, and learning to be able to have an objective approach at problem solving and remain engaging and relational while still being able to be pragmatic is incredibly key. For a customer service representative like myself at that time, it's very easy to internalize and take the issues that come across your desk during the workday and take those home, and it can just destroy you. That at the time I worked for an international company that provided custom window solutions or custom window treatment solutions. And believe it or not, there's a lot of emotion that's wrapped up in window treatments. And I would have clients who would call in dire straits, prepping for a wedding, and their new blinds that they expected to be delivered and installed before their only daughter's wedding that was going to have 500 people in their home. All of the emotions were very, very high, and it would have been very easy to take that home with me. But I was committed to protecting my own mental space and my family. And while I certainly wanted them to be aware of what I was doing and what I was working on, I didn't want that to affect them. So I learned to develop this attitude of objectivism, but also with the goal of being able to take that objectivism and keep the problem itself at arm's length while engaging on an emotional level and a relational level with the clients who I served. And that allowed me to ultimately serve them better and give them a better and happier experience as they navigated the challenges of whatever we were talking about that day.
Sure, I'm with you. Makes sense, and it only comes from experience to have that perspective. A young person who's 19, 20, as I'm sure we've both spoken to recently, you ask them what they want. I remember speaking to a lad recently, he just said he knows that he'll be a millionaire by 30, which I hope he will be. But I think when we're young, we think the path to success and growth is just linear. It's just straight up, like a rocket shooting to outer space. Whereas we both know through experience that the road to success is not guaranteed, but it's a very rocky path. So just talk to me a little bit about how you're looking to incorporate AI into your growth plans for the next year. Are you trying to use AI to facilitate you helping with regards to the talent hiring process?
Yeah, great question. So we use AI internally in a number of different ways. One of the things that we, as a business that we have focused on before AI really started becoming super relevant was automation. And it's interesting that I can say that before it was super relevant. We've only been in business 3 years, and the rise of AI has really hit, I would say, within the last 18 months to 2 years. That it's just spiked in availability. It is everywhere. So it certainly is interesting to see how fast it is hitting the marketplace. And I, for one, am very curious. I know this podcast is very much about AI, but I'm very curious about how it will last. I don't think AI is going to go away, but I think it's going to morph significantly from what it is today to something different. But to answer your question, how do we use AI in the business today? Well, we use AI in a number of different ways. Firstly, because we are a professional services company, we use AI recorders in every call that we take. And those AI recorders take all the details of that conversation, and then it translates that into tasks. And it gives our team those tasks. And obviously, manual review is still required at some level, but we're able to have an AI capture, let's call it 90 to 95% of the tasks that need to be completed based on the summary of that call. And that is huge. Another example here, one that we more recently started doing, is using the same AI tool running through Zapier and a few other filters to QA our calls and to actually look for issues. Before we started recording, I was telling you about a client who we are ending a relationship with, and we actually did this just yesterday, so it's very fresh in my mind. We took all of the transcripts of all of the calls that we've had with them, and we sent that through our AI that we've recently developed, and it gave us all of this feedback and was able to recognize, team dynamic issues in our client team, where ultimately they're just not a good fit for us. So unfortunately, that client will no longer be working with our team. But the reality of using the AI, now that we're talking about it, is it would have been helpful for us to have those AI reviews all along, so that it could have proactively reviewed and predicted even some of the issues that we're now being able to see reflectively. So that's one thing I'm excited about. QA, I think, is a really big deal in any type of professional services organization. And it's something that, as a smaller company, we haven't delved into significantly yet, but we're seeing a huge, huge value in that. As a side note, I think when you're a small company, one of the things that most business owners do, as we're kind of in that entrepreneurial mountain climb and decline, is we rely on our natural abilities. Right. Day one, when you open the business and you start doing something, it's because you're good at something, and you have enough, charisma and natural skill to charge someone for something. Right. But as soon as the business begins scaling, it's no longer about natural ability. Right? It may still be in place, through the first few employees as you hire your key players, but natural ability is not going to sustain a business in the long term. And I think that's where it comes back to systems, processes, and ultimately using tools like AI to create better processes or predict how your processes are performing. So yeah, that's a brief overview. There's some other areas as well, but this is some highlights.
It's an amazing summary, and the point about quality assurance, I've seen, to your point, with regards to how AI can predict when a client is going to churn, or when an event is going to occur within your business or the infrastructure, whatever it is, so prevalent. And I guess it's prevention is better than cure. If you can spot these trends with your team, maybe you assess all of your clients, or you have your 2 operation managers per throughout the business split, then you can go to these people and say, hey, last Friday of the month, we're going to sit down, let's assess all of our clients, let's see where they're at, let's essentially perform a health check to see how solid the relationship is, how likely they are to churn. Because, as you mentioned, when you're starting a business, you can use your gut and you can say, relationship's getting a bit shaky with this client, there's a bit of a problem here. But often that's only you as the business owner or the key account manager who can feel that. And then it's too late. The client churns, and then you do the audit or autopsy, and then you start to diagnose and think, actually, if we just change that one thing, it's similar to if a plane's taking off and it maneuvers 2 degrees.
Yeah.
At the start, you won't notice it, but 500 miles down the line, that's when you actually start to see the difference. That's when you start to see the changes. So
yeah, and I think AI is just a wonderful way to do that. Just harking back to some previous experience in other companies with QA specifically. I've seen entire teams of people who are spending their whole working life dedicated to quality assurance, and the way AI can do that in a more thorough and faster and more complete way is absolutely incredible. So yeah, anyone who has a client-facing aspect of your business, I would highly encourage you to look at using an AI for your quality assurance, because it is incredibly impactful.
Is there any tools you'd specifically recommend to the audience?
Honestly, no, I wouldn't shout out any specific tools beyond like a ChatGPT and Zapier. You can do so much with just basic platforms. You do have to give it some prompts and kind of teach it what is the base level that's needed. I'll give you one tip on that though, and I'm sure you know this, but for our listeners, when you are teaching an AI to have a specific function for you, you want to give the AI as much context as possible. And so, one of the things that we've done is we've taken our values and our company vision and everything that we have compiled about our company documentation, our policies, all of this information, and fed it to the AI before we've given it the prompt. Right? We want it to have all this context before it's giving us feedback. And that way, the feedback it gives us is so much more in alignment with who we are as an organization, and therefore way more helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with AI. It's, as they say, it's only as good as the information and context and content that you give to it, and it's like a relationship. It starts to learn at a supersonic rate, and even if you look at the evolutions between now ChatGPT 4.5 is out, the evolutionary gap between 4.5 and 4 is a 10x in capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then once 5 comes out, that'll be a 10x again. So between
Yep.
what we're doing, which most people are on ChatGPT 4 right now, um, the difference between 4 and 5 is going to be 100x difference in what it does. And the big difference between ChatGPT 4 and 5 is going to be not to do with IQ, but it's going to be with regards to EQ. And
Mm.
that's something that is slightly scary to the extent of it wasn't what people were envisioning. They were thinking, oh, ChatGPT is there for information based problems and helping us solve issues that the internet can help us solve. But the way how they're developing the tools and the systems and the intelligence, it's really focused on emotional intelligence. And even one thing to add to your point there, if you've played around with the voice feature within ChatGPT, you can have full on conversations
Oh yeah.
with ChatGPT and get it to give you feedback and insight on into the questions you're asking, having debates. And you can, something that I do with my team and I encourage them to do, is to role play exercises that they have. If they have a challenge with a software, to diagnose it through there. If they have a client facing challenge, an internal challenge, that they can just use that as a sounding board. So the capabilities as to where everything is going is insane. There is one tool that I would recommend, and I know that you guys you work with tons of automation, Zapier most namely. Have you explored NAN at all?
I can't say that I have. No.
So I would highly recommend looking into it. It's something that our team we're developing with some clients and we're using ourselves. It's a stronger version of Zapier for a cheaper cost, and that's what the essence of artificial intelligence is how can we solve problems at a better rate, a more efficient rate, but for cheaper. So that's just one plug that I would recommend as a tool to look into, because what it's doing right now and what it allows you to do, if you think of the APIs and the workflows, the zaps that you have within Zapier right now, you've got, I don't know, you're going to connect instantly with High Level or Slack with Facebook Forms once you get a response there. It can essentially amalgamate and configure all of these platforms and new ones that Zapier doesn't host, as long as you know how to build, but as long as you know how to build the code, which again, you can build tons of code on ChatGPT within a couple minutes. So I'm curious, taking away or moving away from efficiencies, operational efficiencies within the business, are you using at all any AI to help with the lead generation process, business development?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So at this time, no. And again, that kind of goes back to the idea of operating at capacity. Our market has a lot of demand, honestly, and not that many providers. So anybody who wants to explore this area, join the marketplace. I would encourage you to do so. It certainly could use with some fresh blood. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. The reason why we have not gone the AI route as of yet is that while property management, which is the business that we serve, is I would say, up and coming business group in AI, right? There's a lot of AI that's being implemented today in the many different softwares that are available. There's an interesting conundrum with property management in the third-party property management space specifically, and this is it. Um, property owners have a desire for um, relationships. They're looking for high touch, high level expertise in relation to managing their asset. When they look at their single family property or small multifamily property, that's an investment for them. And there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. And like we were talking about a moment ago, right, while AI is getting better at EQ, still today, EQ is mostly a human activity.
Mhm.
And so for someone to trust their multi-$100,000, multi-million-dollar investment to an AI is something that's just it's not going to happen, at least not today. Who knows what will happen in the future, right? Now, the opposing viewpoint here, and this is where it's relevant to property management, is that for the tenant side of the equation, for those who are dwelling in the properties, they don't want that type of high relational type of situation. They're looking for very simple things that they can do on their phone, extremely easy to navigate, call centers with AI assistants that they can call and not have to talk to a real person, things of this nature. So there's these two competing mindsets that fall into the property management business. Now, to kind of bring this full circle to your original question about Black Sheep and how we use or do not use AI, because our clients are still highly, highly relational, and the business that we operate in has a relatively high price point. We have not gone the route of AI for the hope of not losing the personalization aspect. Ultimately, we're in the business of helping people build their business as their dream, and using customized software and business development consulting. That's really not something that an AI has learned how to do yet. I'm sure it will happen in the future, but until that point, our clients still really want that personal relationship. And so that's kind of a little bit behind what we're doing,
I'm with you. So, looking ahead with that, where do you see the biggest opportunities for tech or AI to support you in your mission for growth and serving your clients as best as possible?
It's a great question. So AI has, as I mentioned, really hit the marketplace in property management software very heavily over, I want to say, the last year. So there's going to continue to be development in the various existing software platforms. As far as where it will serve the specific work that we do, I think the major opportunity today is in the actual documentation of business processes. Um, Documentation of a process is something that's relatively rote, but it's very necessary. The challenge is that AI can't keep you accountable, right? An AI can send you an email every day, or text, or any other type of notification that you want, but an AI isn't going to pressure you in the healthiest way possible. In the way that a fitness coach would do, or that a performance coach would do. And again, this is where the human relationship, I think, is really important. So to bring it back to the value, I think, in documentation, the better AI gets at listening to calls, at understanding the various aspects of business, and being able to operate inside softwares that maybe don't have full AI platforms. I think that's a really fascinating opportunity. We've been doing some research into a software, or I should say a type of software called RPA, which is robotic process automation. And the combination of robotic process automation and AI, I think, is a match made in heaven, where you can basically have a bot that will live in a software that doesn't have a native AI or even an open API, but rather simply you provide an account to the bot, and then the bot is able to enter that platform and do anything that a human would do as they would click around that software. And if you can teach a bot how to navigate any software platform it can then, using AI, you can tell it, I need you to go and do this. And then it can go and accomplish that without having significant training time or any of these extra things that are necessary. That's a really big opportunity. And it's still a reality that in the property management space, I would say it is a not technology backward, but maybe technology limited type of business. It's not gotten the same attention as some of the sexier businesses like investment banking or all of these other things that are a little bit more profitable and more exciting. But in property management, you're dealing with real estate, and as you know, right, the best investment one can really get for the long term is property. They're not making any more of it, right? So I think it's a really incredible opportunity, and I am sure that AI is going to continue to have more and more impact as time passes.
So much so. Benjamin, to hear what you're doing with Black Sheep and to think about how you're implementing it so efficiently, because when it comes down to client delivery, it sounds as though there's a lot of hats that you're trying to make sure are checked off. And to speak to a business owner who is focusing so much on quality assurance and hasn't got uh, overshoot growth goals, not to downplay yours, but to be very content with where you're at. And I can see that in your calm demeanor. It's refreshing, because a lot of people who I speak to are focused on, we just want to have the biggest boat, but quite often with the biggest boat, the biggest boats sink. Benjamin, where can people find you and what's next for you?
Yeah, if you'd like to learn more about what we do, we've got a couple places you can find us. Blacksheepglobal.net is our primary website. If you're interested in learning more about processes, technology, and just more what we do, we also have a free Facebook group called Processes Made Simple. If you have trouble finding that online, sometimes Facebook is wonky. You can go to processesmadesimple.io. That'll have all the details there as well. As far as what's next for us, we are, like I mentioned, really in the team growth space right now. I'm in talent acquisition mode, so we're busy finding the right people and making sure that we've got the right fits across the organization to really give us a sustainable long-term business. So that's my big next priority for next few months. And then the other thing that we're working on is we're actually going to be doing kind of an online conference where we'll be bringing in a number of experts in the space of process and automation, and really just doing a deep dive into what that looks like in the world of property management and business at large.
Look forward to both of those opportunities. Take care, Benjamin. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe.